Okay, so today is Gary's new home construction presentation. So welcome everyone. Once we get done here, we'll answer any questions anyone has. Please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions. We'll review at the end before the end of the presentation. So Gary, go ahead and take it away.
Great, thanks a lot. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending. So today is going to be on new home construction. So we're going to be talking basically new home construction, Tarion, pretty much, and any of the new products that we've been using over the past number of years, just to give you a nice understanding. Again, if you are new to this series I've been doing, here's the team: myself, Mladen, and Ian. We're all full-time home inspectors. My wife Christine answers the phones, takes the bookings. She also has a lot of information herself on inspections. Again, if you're willing to drive there, guys, we're willing to drive there. It's typically an hour and a half distance. Will we go further? Yeah, just call us and let us know. If we can't accommodate you, we'll try and field you, get you with somebody who we trust in that appropriate area. Again, you'll see this QR code every so often. If you do scan it with your camera, it should put my details into your phone. But let's get straight into this course. So what's new in new homes? We're going to do an overview, show you different components. These components, some of them may have been around only in the last few years. Some may be a little bit longer in the marketplace, but it's going to give you an understanding of the construction on how we're doing new homes today. We're going to look at common problems we find when we do inspections of, fairly new homes, or even Tarion warranty inspections. Or I'm also going to touch on pre-delivery inspections and explain to you why I'm not a big promoter of a PDI, but we'll get into that when we get further into the presentation. Any questions you've got, if you want to type them in, we can answer them at the end. Or if you prefer to call me directly, you can call me directly. If you scan that cue card, you'll have my cell phone as well as a direct number to the office. So what are we looking at? New home buyers, everyone expects there to be a perfect home, but, as realtors, we all know that there's no perfect home. It doesn't matter if it's a pre-delivery inspection, a 1-year Tarion warranty, or a home that's 3 years old. There's always going to be some issues. Some issues may be mechanical, or some, in most cases, when we're dealing with newer homes, is usually bad workmanship, okay, incomplete work. And I'll get into the reasons why that happens. So we'll have a look at, I'm going to explain to you what truss joists are. We don't use a lot of solid wood anymore. We use TGIs, truss joists. TGIs is just like a common word, like saying Coca-Cola almost. People just engineered wood, they'll say TGIs. But anyway, we'll look at some plastic water supply. I've got a little bit in here on Kitec, but I'm not going to get into Kitec. I'm just going to do a quick, brief explanation. But I do have a seminar that we may be doing in the fall that's strictly on Kitec plumbing and aluminum wiring, because there is a lot to explain. So I'm dedicating almost 40 minutes just to those two categories later on. I'm going to explain what ARC AFCIs are and why it's different to GFCI, so you have a better understanding. So if we start looking at truss joists, okay, opposed to solid wood or dimensional lumber, as we would call it, okay, more expensive to process and to transport, and we've got limitations when we use dimensional lumber. So here you're looking at some dimensional, so basically wood, 2x10s, 2x6s, 2x8s, whatever, right? So this is wood, but when you look at solid wood products, you have to understand they have to come from a tree, and the length dictates how many you're going to get from the tree that we cut down. So we're limited, and it can get quite expensive. Okay. So what we use today is truss joists, engineered woods. But if you look at that point just near the bottom there, we use 50% less wood typically when we're dealing with engineered woods. The good thing with trusses or truss joists or engineered woods is today we're doing a lot more open plan designs. We seem to be getting away right now. Everything goes in cycles, but a typical, 3,000 square foot, 2,600 square foot home. You'd walk in, you'd have a room on the left, a room on the right, a dining room separate, a family room separate, and the kitchen. And most people now, they seem to be opening them up to do that open concept. Well, to do an open concept when we were using solid wood products, we're limited on the spans we can do, where when we use engineered wood, not infinite, but we can go real large spans and do the open concepts without having any support posts in the middle of the home. Okay, so it makes the designs a lot easier to do when we start doing the open concepts. But these are all engineered lumbers, all these. Okay, that none of them are solid wood, they're all engineered. Okay, and here's some of your TGIs right here on the eyes. Okay, so again, the reason, one, we have more flexibility, we can do those clear spans. Okay, and it's a lot better for the designers, and and we're also in a lot of cases eliminating the bulkheads. So when we do an inspection, we're not just there to tell your clients what's wrong with the house. We tell them up front, if you've got plans, you want to add an extra bathroom upstairs, you want to do an open concept, you do this, ask us, and we will explain and give as much information as we can to help your clients see what they can do if they decided they're buying this house and they want to do an open concept. We'll typically can tell them if it's a supporting wall or not. And if it's not a supporting wall, still not a big deal. Okay, they can still do an open concept, but they may end up having a bulkhead and they just have to tie it in on one side, or maybe have to keep one post. It all depends. But typically they're gonna end up having a bulkhead. Okay. So again, the benefits. Okay, longer spans, vibration transfer. I'm gonna cover some of that in the next couple of slides here, and I'll explain what that is. People associate a solid home with something that feels solid. Sounds stupid, but when you walk into a house, especially some of the older homes, everything's solid. You walk, even when my mates come in who are 6'2", 6'4", 240, 250 pounds, nothing moves. My house, built in the 81, I think between you and I'm not telling your clients this, but basically the 80s through to the late 90s was an awful building period. Okay, and I'll get into that later on. But basically, with some of the products we use, they had a little bit too much deflection. So here's what happens. I know it's a lot of letters and numbers, LV 360s and L480s, but in a nutshell, is on a span of 15 feet, if you had an L360, the deflection means you'd have a half an inch within the 15 feet. Okay. Deflection. But if you upgraded to an L480, you'd have 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so a little bit less. So it's going to feel a little bit more solid. Well, when we started doing the building period in the early 80s through to the mid late 90s, there was a little bit too much deflection. Now it's still solid. The house isn't going to fall down. But when my mates walk into my house, my chandeliers, if they walk with the rail up and down, my chandeliers shake. Okay, and people associate a solid house with something that feels solid. So if you ever get that comment from your clients when you're showing them a house that's built in that area, that's the reason. Okay, when you go and have a brand new house built, some builders, not all, but some builders may give you the option to upgrade to a stiffer board, and you'll pay a little bit of a premium on that. But the difference of the feel, I probably wouldn't feel that much of a difference. My family's a very small family, as in, I'm the tallest at 5'5". But anyway, it's an option that some builders give you, and it may be something you may want to investigate. So the older trusses, like I said before, a lot more bouncier, which is i.e. my house. But the new ones today, they are better than they were obviously in the 80s and the 90s, but you can upgrade. And again, people associate a solid house with something that feels solid when you're walking. I mean, even my stairs spring as I walk upstairs, right? So you can look into that. And if you are buying a brand new build, it may be worthwhile really investigating. And they normally can break down the products they're actually using in the new build. And it may be worthwhile asking the questions. So again, just like I said, ask the builder. You know, you're spending the money, they should have all this information on hand. So it is something that should be written down in the contracts of what they are using. So let's look at water supplies. We use a lot of plastic today, and I don't want people getting scared of plastic water supply pipes. We've been using them in Europe, in England, Jesus, in the 40s and 50s even, okay? It's just that plastic pipe gets a bit of a bad taste in people's mouths now, especially realtors, because most of you should know about Kitec plumbing. If you don't, I suggest you definitely sit through my seminar I do on the Kitec plumbing later in the fall. But there is nothing wrong with plastic. Now, we still use copper, absolutely. But the reason they use plastic is quite often it's easier in labor, because we're obviously feeding them through. They can bend around corners, go on angles, there's less connections. So there is a reason, and there's a cost benefit to the builder on time it takes to put in copper, the cost of copper, you know, having to solder the angles, okay, fewer joints. Now, you will notice that on where you see we can do multiple parallel runs, okay. So on a lot of custom homes, you will see if you were to look at an electrical panel, and you've got the electrical panel, and we have all the runs coming from the electrical panel, and each run, one's going to the bedrooms, one's this, and they're all going. They can actually do the same with the plastic pipe, where the water main comes in, they're actually running one pipe strictly for the cold, one pipe strictly for the hot to each bathroom, but you've got multiple runs. You're going to get better pressure, okay, opposed to where we can still do with the plastic, do the same as copper, where we're actually doing a run, but then branching off, okay, like a tree, going to the various areas. It's less material, okay, but you will find a lot of custom homes will do parallel runs. So this is what we would be getting away from when we're using the plastic. We're going to use the you know, the plastic connections that are usually just like a push fit in some cases. But anytime we're dealing with copper and we're having to do the solder and everything else, you know, when we do test it, it could leak, okay? But we still see a lot of copper out there, but do not, you know, do not think that plastic is bad because of Kitec or a few of the other ones that have been bad. These are all, you know, plastic PEX, doesn't matter how you call it. These are all similar products. I'm not going to get into poly B, but that was another issue. We don't have a lot of poly B in Canada. There's quite a bit down south. So again, PEX cross-linked. Okay, it's like I say, in Europe we've been using it for decades. Okay, so don't hang yourself up on plastic plumbing just because of this Kitec plumbing. Okay. Basically, if you don't know what Kitec plumbing is, plumbing material is, you should educate yourself on it. Most insurance companies today, when they say what distribution piping product do you have, and you say plastic, the next question from the insurance broker will be, is it Kitec? Now, if you see the orange pipe, I used to say, if you see orange pipe, it's guaranteed it's Kitec. That being said, there's a manufacturer that is actually using orange pipe again. So you will start seeing more of the orange pipe out there that is not Kitec. But up to a couple of years ago, if you saw the orange plastic piping, it was guaranteed it was Kitec. But there is a manufacturer using orange pipe now. Seeing Kitec written on there is a no-brainer. You see Kitec, you know it's Kitec. If you see Kitec stamped onto the brass connectors, or you see KTC, or you see KT, okay? If you see F1807s, that's also Kitec, okay? Basically, in a nutshell, if we identify Kitec, somebody, either the buyer or the seller, is replacing the entire Kitec distribution water pipes throughout the house. Big dollars. There's very few things that we can find as a home inspector that I feel somebody will walk away from a deal with. Okay, Kitec is probably the, besides structural, which is a rarity, believe it or not, but besides structural, if we identified Kitec, somebody's going to be paying for that. Otherwise, you'll probably see somebody walk away from the deal. Okay, but remember, if it's identified, everything can be fixed, everything can be replaced. It's just money at the end of the day. So as long as you can come to an agreement, the deal can be kept alive. There's several other manufacturers that used Kitec products. Okay, so it doesn't have to be Kitec, it can be several other names. And again, it take me 20-25 minutes to explain it. So just keep in mind, if you don't know about Kitec, do my next seminar, and you really need to know what you're looking for. AFCIs compared to GFCI. So everyone pretty much knows what a ground fault circuit interrupter is. Basically, it used to be 1 meter. If you had an outlet that was 1 meter to water, basically you can put your hand in the sink and put your hand and plug something in on the wall. Basically 1 meter, that was the rule, it had to be a GFCI. It's now 1.5 meters, so it's 5 feet. And what dictated that was manufacturers of appliances have increased the length of their cable. So where the kettle may have had a plug that had a cord that was 2.5-3 feet, they've extended it. So because the cords have extended with the electrical products, they've had to extend the distance that something has to be a GFI. So ground fault circuit interrupter basically is, if you were to electrocute yourself with water, with an electrical appliance, it would trip off and then save your life, and then you reset it. So AFCIs, you'll see a lot more of these now, typically blue. You'll see them in the panel, okay? So they've got to be in new homes, all in the bedrooms, okay? So what does an AFCI do? It's an arc fault circuit interrupter. So nothing to do with water. What it's to do with, if there's an arc in the current, so i.e. you're replacing the baseboards in one of the bedrooms, and you were to nick the wire, it would create an arc and it would trip, the same as a GFCI trips, but instead of water, issues with water making it trip, it's just an arc. You'd reset it. If it tripped again, then you'd have to get an electrician to check out what's happening, okay? And the mandatory in bedrooms because they don't want smoldering wires in bedrooms. Now, they have some homes have put all AFCIs in the panels, but they're finding that there's issues with them now because the AFCIs that are in bedrooms don't usually get a lot of draw. Probably the maximum draw you're going to get is, maybe a TV, right? But they start to put in AFCIs in all the panels. But what happens is, especially in kitchens and things like this, where currents do change because we have higher draw appliances, it creates an arc, okay? And they trip often. And the builder's been having to come round and change them back out to just regular breakers. So that's the AFCIs. So think of them similar to a GFCI. They trip, but they trip based on arcing opposed to water and electrical issues. So common problems. Again, no perfect house. We all know that. So what do we look for? What we find mostly when we do carry-on warranties is incomplete work, or maybe some damaged, missing, imperfection workmanship. What you have to understand is when a builder builds a subdivision, I don't know, 300, 500 homes, they're going to have a certain amount of site managers. So you may have a site manager that's in charge of, 30 or 50 homes. So you've got several site managers, and he's in charge of that block of homes. So very few builders own all their own tradespeople. They use multiple tradespeople. So they may have 5 or 6 roofers on call, and plumbers and electricians, okay? So at the end of the day, if your house is only as good as that tradesman that did the plumbing for that house or put the shingles on for that house. And those tradesmen are managed by the site manager. Well, if you've got a site manager who's, friends with everyone, yeah, it's okay, Joe, it's okay, Paul, and they throw a 2.4 in the back of his truck, and he turns a bit of a blind eye to a little bit of work that's not that great, but just barely passes, opposed to a site manager who's really on the ball, and he makes sure that plumber and framer and all this gets away with nothing. The 50 houses that guy who's really on the ball is going to be better than the other 50 houses. So you're only as good as the workman. Okay. So issues we can be looking at, we'll look at interior finishes, grading, roofing, insulation and ducting. So while we're talking about tiles and floor damage, we get a lot of calls throughout the year to do PDI inspections, so pre-delivery inspections. I'm not a lover of pre-delivery inspections for you to, hire me for $450 to come out and do a PDI with you, because we're limited. We're limited on, we can't use a ladder, so we can't go in the attic. We can't use a flashlight. Okay, everything's got to be visual. So the difference between a pre-delivery inspection and, let's say, your 30-day or your 60 or 90, doesn't matter. We usually say call us in around 10 or 11 months and we'll do a full inspection then. Okay. If you're going to do a PDI, this is my advice. You make sure that you take 1 or 2 extra people with you who are detail oriented. And in a nutshell, what you're looking for, forget the big stuff. We're going to catch that. You're looking for the finishes. You're looking for cracks in the tile floor, gouges in the wood flooring. Okay. Dints in your cabinetry work, chips in the bathtub, anything. Look at it this way. If you move into the house and you have the movers come in and you move all your stuff in from your old house, if the builder can say that you did that when you moved in, that's what's not covered. So if we go in and you see some hairline cracks in the tile floor in the kitchen, or big cracks, if we can't prove it's due to inadequate mortar thickness, they're going to say you did that when you moved in and you're not covered. So it's all about the detail work on a PDI, in my view. The other stuff we'll catch. So just keep that in mind, okay? If you can think that that could have been caused by the movers, you're not covered, okay? Stuff like this, obviously, should have been sealed, should have been caulked. Stuff like this, they could say it was done after the fact and it was okay. So that's the difference on a PDI. So siding, yes, we look at the siding, poor flashings. Poor flashings is a big one that we will find. Obviously, if it's cut too short. When we look at grading, a couple of things with grading. Obviously, when you look at something like this, if I was to look at something like this and I was allowed to go weekly and check on the site, I'd be concerned with this, because I know they're just going to backfill this over the weeper. Okay, but by backfilling this, I've got these big boulders already crushing down on my weeper. These should all be removed away. But this is not something you can catch unless you're going down on a regular basis, if the builder will let you go and check the site. But we're going to come back to this picture right here. Okay, so the boulder's crushing down. Okay, so this is where the sill plate's going to attach to. So here's your foundation. This is where our wood sill plate's going to go on. That's why it's always important we don't backfill anything above this. We usually want 4 to 6 inches of the foundation showing, because if we don't, it means now we're right up against our wooden sill plate. So something like this is not going to be covered on Tarion, but we would be asking you to extend this further away from the foundation. But something like this would be an issue to us. We're very, very close, okay, with everything now. We need to see at least 4 inches here, okay? Because as this soil gets higher, this is only a brick veneer. Here's your weeping holes. And remember, right behind here, okay, we've got our wood sill plate. So this is the kind of issue we'd be looking at. So you've built up the garden, and you've built it up right now, right up over the brick, also over the weeping holes. And if you've got a planter box here, what you're going to do in hot weather, you're going to water it. And if you water it, what's going to happen? Water's going to go in there, and it's going to go through, and there's your sill plate, all rotting out. Okay. Now, to replace a sill plate, it means we've got to jack the house up to replace that sill. Very expensive, all because of this. Okay. So roofing issues that we come across quite often. Okay. This is actually more common than you would think. So you have to have a certain temperature to be able to shingle. We've got to have a certain amount of heat, sunlight, okay, because there's an adhesiveness on the back of the shingles. So typically we don't want to shingle anything under 7 degrees. I like to say 9, but 7 degrees. But because builders, need to do all the inside work in the winter months, they really push it to the end. And if they can still be shingling in October and November and think they can get away with it, they're going to do it. Or if they can start as early as they can in April, they're going to do it. But typically, if we see something like this, I know that they shingled either too late in the fall or too early in the spring, and it wasn't warm enough for the adhesive to stick. And now these are all wind prone. Very, very common issue. And there's nothing you can do about it at this stage. You're just gonna have to live with it and keep doing the little spot repairs until you're at the time to replace the shingles. Missing flashing, very common Ontario warranties. I say common, I don't think it's like, 8 out of 10 we're going to see this, but at least three times, 4 times out of 10, we will see some incomplete work on flashings. And again, it's as good as the trades guy who did it. Attic ventilation. Now, we all know about the attic ventilation. I did it on the mold seminars and everything else, okay? But it has to breathe a certain way. But this is something that we will find, okay? Where, either they forgot to cut out the hole, okay? When they marked it up on the sheathing, because it would have been marked. So the guy's come across, he's going to shingle the roof, he sees the mark, maybe it's a Friday night, he can't be bothered, he wants to get home, he's on a promise with the girlfriend, and blah, blah, blah. So he just shingles right over the top. So this never ever gets connected, okay? So now the dryer or the bathroom vent or wherever it is just venting straight into the attic, okay? This we will see. I mean, there's other things wrong with this picture too. It needs to be insulated. The other thing with, I think I've got another picture here, insulation. Okay. So that's what that is we will find situations like this, and this has to be corrected. This wasn't on one of my inspections. This was a guy down south, a pillar post inspector down there, but he sent us this and he couldn't believe it. So this is an old picture. This was 65,000 many years ago. So it looks like a Spanish tile roof. Okay, it's actually a composite, like a plastic, but they just use regular mortar. Okay, instead of an adhesive, and that was a big error. I mean, I haven't seen that down here, but I thought, I mean, for someone to spend that kind of money and then the installer to use regular cement it just boggles my mind. Insulating and ducting. So another common error. Okay, so they've blown the insulation in. They put the bat over there originally, okay, because they knew that the electrician still had to come in and do some electrical work to put in the exhaust fans. So either the electrician does the work and then thinks the insulation guy is going to come back and finish it off, or vice versa. But the end result is cold spot here. No big deal. We're just going to re-insulate it, okay? As long as the correct vapor barriers is over the electrical. But here's a big one for you, okay? I don't think there's ever a Tarion warranty we have ever conducted at the 1 year stage or the 11-month stage where the insulation hasn't settled 20 to 25%. That's the typical settling we get. So what happens is your contract may say they've got to put in 18 inches of insulation. And guess what? The builder will blow in 18 inches. But the builder also knows full well that in 6 to 8 months, it's going to settle by as much as 25%. Okay. So now, instead of 18 inches, you're sitting with like 14, right? So we will measure it, take a picture of the data plate, and then they're going to have to come back in and top you back up. Now, most people say, well, Gary, if they know that, why aren't they putting in the extra 25% so it'll settle? Well, they're playing the odds games. How many people out of 500 houses will actually have a carry-on warranty done? 10%, 5%, not many. So they don't mind coming back and topping up those people that do get a carry-on warranty done and identify this, but you will, for sure, it will settle 25%. No ands, ifs, or buts. Never done a carry-on warranty yet where that's not been the case. So, the money you're going to spend for a carry-on warranty, you're going to get back right off the bat here. And if you don't do a carry-on warranty, do yourself a favor, pop into the attic before your 1 year, take a measurement, take a picture, submit it. They'll have to top up your insulation. Ductwork not being sealed. It may look like a minor thing, but we're in a heating climate most of the year. We don't want that escaping. We want to maximize the amount of heat or the cooling in the summer seasons, that it keeps our bills down. Well, if they're not sealing and taping this up correctly, okay, you've got a lot of heat loss. So that's a common thing we will find on the carry-on warranties. This is a no-brainer, disconnected. One thing you need to do if you do own a brand new home and from the builder is when you call us in and around the 10 or 11 month time spot, make sure that you have a little notepad somewhere in your kitchen drawer and make some notes of what you find, because we're in your house for 2.5, 3 hours. But there's certain things that we may not know because, because we're only there for 2.5, 3 hours. But you may say, you know what, Gary, this one bedroom just always seems, too hot or too cold or something like this by a few degrees, and it's consistent. Well, we may not catch that right off the bat, and maybe there's a block on the return air or something like that, something that we can investigate a little bit further for you. So you should keep these notes and give us as much information as you can so we can investigate other areas that may not typically be done. So this typical wood frame structure. Foundation cracks, okay, shrinkage cracks. There's not an inspection we will do and not see shrinkage cracks. Now, here's a tip for you, okay? But don't tell the builders I'm telling you this, but here's what you need to do. If you have a brand new home and you can walk around your perimeter and see that you've got the shrinkage cracks. Now, it may be a little bit more difficult because some builders will insulate almost all the way down to the floor. Okay, some will only just do to the frost line. Either way is fine. You don't have to go all the way to the floor. As long as you insulate to the frost line, 3 feet 11 inches, you're good. But if they do that, and you can see these shrinkage cracks around, the builder will only fix them if they leak. So this is what you do. If you've got a brand new build home and you're 10 months into it, you walk around, get yourself a cup or a little jug of water, pour it on the floor right against the crack, make a little puddle, take a picture, do it on all of them, send it into the builder and say, these cracks are leaking. They will then have to come and do an epoxy injection. Even if they haven't leaked, one day they may leak, but it may be at the time when your warranty's out. So why not get them to come around and do the epoxy injection for him? That's what I would do. And they've got no recourse on it because you've showed it, okay? So there's a little tidbit for you. So shrinkage cracks, very common, very rare. They're going to be structural. Okay, here's a bit of corner shearing, all this stuff. This one's one just showing that it's had the epoxy and it's come out. Excessive overhang. Yes, we do come across them sometimes. Remember, this is a brick veneer house and the overhang's far too excessive. So they would then have to put a anchor plate under there. No big deal. Once they put the anchor plate under, you're good to go. It's not a make or break on the deal. And then there's just plain crazy where they're just too lazy to redirect the stack. So they just cut right through. Okay, we'd now have to sister this up. And again here. Okay. Now, listen, we don't build homes that weak that just, you know, a couple of joists being cut is going to make your whole house fall down. But they should have corrected this. Even with this TGI, they shouldn't have used this one. They should have put a new one in. Okay. Are they going to change it? No. But this is the kind of stuff we will find. Missing joist hangers. Okay. We need a joist hanger here. Joist hangers. This is a joist hanger. Can't even be part. A joist hanger has to go the full depth. And for every hole, two missing here, every hole has to have a nail. Okay. That's the code. Cross braces. Again, not a make or break, but these cross braces were already pre-cut. And because we had a double joist here, obviously these are not 16-inch centers anymore, and they just nailed them in offside instead of taking the time to take an inch or so off of the each cross brace. Structural defects. Any support post has to go the full width of what it's supporting. Okay, so they would have to correct this and put another plate in. And then sometimes we just have plain crazy stuff. So this was sent in from some of the guys down south. I'm hoping these people don't get snow. But everyone had to own a 4x4 with a minimum 16-inch clearance, I think. Just when you think you've seen everything, we get pictures like this sent. So anyway, so that's pretty much the end of it. But just remember, when you sign your contract, see if inspectors are allowed to come on site. Some won't allow them. Some, and again, I know we can't use flashlights. I know we can't use our ladders. That's why I don't promote PDIs. But anything after that, absolutely will come and look after it for you. We usually promote callers in around the 11-month time. Everything is still covered bumper to bumper, just not your finishers. And that's why I said on your PDI, you really have to look closely at the finishers, chips, scratches, gouges, okay? Any of that stuff, okay? And that's about it, guys. I appreciate your time. Just to give you an understanding of, you know, overall new products on homes. And again, if you've already got your home inspector, that's great. Stick me in your phone in case he doesn't work bank holidays. We've got 3 inspections Saturday. We've got 4 inspections on Monday already, bank holiday. But yeah, we're like yourselves. We do 7 days a week. Typically, we like to do 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock inspections. We do later inspections by request. We know first-time owners, buyers want to usually do a later one because they don't want to take time off work. We will do them. But we do try and limit how many evening inspections we do, just because, you know, by the time the guys do 2 inspections and go home, we'll amend it accordingly. And I hope you got something from there.
Thanks, Gary. That was great.
Right.
Those driveways are horrible. Can you imagine those covered with ice? And those are steeper than hills.
Yeah, just when you think you've seen it all. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that was sent
Lord.
from a guy down south years ago. Yeah.
How would they even fix something like that? They'd have to.
You can't fix that. I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah, I've had that picture in one of my presentations now for about 12 years. So this is probably 15 years ago. This was.
Well, we've got some questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
This one's regarding warranties and guarantees. For a 1.5-year-old detached house in Whitby, what are the warranties and guarantees they should ask a seller for?
Oh, they're going to buy one. Well, you should ask them for all the paperwork that they've submitted to Tarry for the Tarry on warranty. Because what happens is it's transferable, but unfortunately, the builders really drag their feet on what's supposed to be done. And even if you've put something in that was that you submitted on your 30-day, It's not unusual. 2 years past, they still haven't fixed what was supposed to be fixed. But like anything else, a squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So you've got to keep on top of them and threaten them with putting something into Tarion against the builder, because they don't like that. But everything should be transferable. They should show you, if you're buying something that's 1.5 year old, that person is the original buyer, they should have all the paperwork there to be able to supply you.
Gotcha. What is the average life expectancy of a new build house these days?
You're not going to outlive it. No, as long as you keep on top of your house, keep it dry, it just keeps going. Yeah, you're not gonna outlive a new build home. No, nothing wrong with them.
Excellent.
Right? Unless it gets blown down with a hurricane like in Barry. No, it ain't going anywhere.
Perfect. And one of the ones was, is the 11-month inspection organized by Tarion?
No, the seller, the owner will call up, and then you have to submit your 1 year paperwork before the 12 months is up, right? So when we do the report, we'll do a summary report, and we do a full inspection. It's like a regular inspection, but we type it up slightly different, so you can take, because you can't submit our report, you have to transfer all our wording and all our pictures into the Tarion form and then submit it.
Gotcha. Okay. And this one might be better covered in the actual Kitech presentation that you'll do near the end of these. But what is the general problem with Kitech plumbing?
They burst, they fail, and it's not a matter of if they're going to fail, it's just a matter of when they're going to fail. But in a nutshell, the pipes will split, and just imagine a burst pipe with that amount of pressure. If you're not home, yeah, you're going to be wading into a few feet of water downstairs.
Ouch. This sounds like not fun. Well, that's the end of the question. So thank you so much, Gary. Appreciate it.
Right. Well, I hope everyone has a great long weekend. And yeah, I'm going to be driving up to the cottage in about an hour.
Oh, enjoy yourself. So the next presentation will be held on the August 11th, and that will be just the next series. So please feel free to join us then. This recording will be put up on the agent portal for everyone to look at. Thanks very much, Gary. I'm going to stop the recording here.